Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and congratulations on your nomination, Mr. Colby. So the U.S. does not target innocent civilians, and not only because that's what's right, it is also that's what's effective. General Stanley McChrystal coined the term insurgent math. You may remember hearing about this, meaning that for every civilian you kill, you create 10 new enemies. U.S. airstrikes killed as many as 48,000 civilians between 2001 and 2021. You can do the math on that. Now, most people know that killing civilians is wrong and should be rare. And when it has happened, our troops file reports. But too often, those reports don't actually receive a response from anyone. And we don't learn how to avoid future accidents that result in civilian deaths. And that's why Congress passed several reforms into law to reduce civilian harm and to improve our guidance for our service members, including establishing the Civilian Protection Center of Excellence. This center helps make military operations more effective, and it also supports troops in preventing and responding to civilian harm. So let me ask you, Mr. Colby, if confirmed, will you oversee implementation of these reforms? Do you agree that preventing civilian deaths enhances U.S. national security, including reducing risks to our own troops?
I do agree with that, Senator.
Good. I'm glad to hear that. It's very important. This isn't a partisan issue. During the first Trump administration, the Pentagon grew concerned about the number of civilian deaths resulting from operations that were in place to try to defeat ISIS, and it launched a study. And Secretaries of Defense Mattis and Esper and Austin all took steps to reduce civilian harm across the administrations. So today, the Center of Excellence helps commanders sharpen their campaign plans so they can make smarter decisions about strikes that they need to deploy. So, Mr. Colby, do you agree that commanders can make better decisions in the field when they're equipped with training on how to avoid civilian casualties?
I do, Senator.
Good. I'm glad to hear that. Following the laws of war helps set us apart from terrorists and from adversaries like Russia, which has targeted civilians in Ukraine. American troops also rely on Judge Advocate General's Corps for legal advice. Senator Graham, who himself was a JAG, rightly called the JAGs the conscience of the military. Mr. Colby, do you think it's important that commanders have legal advice that they can count on and trust?
I do, Senator.
Secretary Hedgeco's outspoken disregard for the rules of war endangers U.S. troops, and his firing of the top military lawyers in the Army, the Navy, and the Air Force last month, and his plans to reduce the rank of JAG leadership from a 3-star role to a 2-star role are deeply concerning. If confirmed as Undersecretary of Defense for Policy, your views will send a message from the top about whether the laws of war matter. I urge you to take this seriously. I appreciate your answers today. If you want to expand on any of them, you're welcome to do so.
Thank you, Senator. I've seen the reports in the press, so I can't speak about it authoritatively. I trust Secretary Hegseth's judgment. What I would say is that if confirmed, I certainly would take the laws of war very seriously. It's something I've studied in the past. I've thought about a great deal. It's part of the overall ends, ways, means, and the rational use of military power. Again, not to be sanguine about it or blasé, but to say that observing the laws of war, understanding them in a reasonable way that's consistent with combat effectiveness and military effectiveness and achieving our goals in deterrence, I think that's a very important part of the picture that I think is part of the role of the USTP if confirmed.
I appreciate that, Mr. Colby. I think that helps keep our war fighters safer, and I also think it helps keep our nation safer. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.